Good evening. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for Sunday, the 1st of December. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. We did actually go up on the markets in November, but we didn't actually go up an awful lot, apart from obviously the boost for the election, but really we didn't do anything more than retest that by the end of the month. So, it's not what I was hoping to see from November. I was hoping to see more. What I would say as we start December is we have a potential part-formed large head and shoulders here and a potential smaller double top here. And I am wondering if we might see some movement down. I was thinking that we would see a decent move up into the end of December, and we may still see that. And I'll be talking about the targets for that. But if we don't, I am expecting next year to be a much more disruptive year. I think obviously the new administration is planning to make an awful lot of changes. An awful lot of trees are going to be shaken. And frankly, a lot of those trees need to be shaken. But what this is going to do is it is going to lead to a very, very messy news environment and potentially significant downside parts of the year or possibly over the whole year. In terms of equities, we could see some serious disruption in the bond market. We could see big moves on currencies. It could be altogether a much more interesting year than the sort we are used to. So I am wondering if, given that we're getting a lot of announcements in terms of tariffs and what Trump's going to be doing next year, that even though he's not actually inaugurated till almost mid-January, it may be that we're actually going to start seeing some disruption before that. And I am wondering whether we might see things like this double top here play out. Now, if this one was to play out, a sustained break below the 58.50 area would actually have a target in about the 56.50 area. Big support in the 57.25 area. I am wondering if we might do that. And I think next week should be instructive for whether we are going to see that. In the short term, no negative divergence on the hourly chart here. Nothing on NDX either, which has not come close. NDX is lagging and has not come close to a retest of the highs as yet. In terms of RTY, nice move up on the election, and we've gone back up and retested that. Not much more than that, and there's another pretty nice looking double top there too. We've also got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, which has been fixed for couple of days, about 3 or 4 days actually, I think, and hasn't made target yet. We've got another one of those on Dow, and that's still open. Again, hasn't made target. We don't have big double tops on either of. Well, we've got one on RTY, but we don't have one on NQ, and we don't really have one here either. But we do have a possible head and shoulder neckline in the 43,000 area. But at the moment, I'm just wondering whether we might see that retracement, and there's a partial setup for it, but it's far from conclusive. In terms of DAX, nice looking double bottom here after a bit of a shaky start after it broke up. It looks as though it might actually head up into the target, which really the minimum target is a retest of this high here, which is in about the 19,840 area, and the extended target would be up in about the 870 area. In terms of ESTX, we've got a nice looking double bottom there, and it hasn't broken up yet, and maybe it will, maybe it won't, but we will see. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Right, on SPX, just to look at some of the bigger picture charts. What was I looking for in terms of a move up in November and December? Well, what I was hoping to see was a test of this trend line here, which would be in about the 6,200 area, I think. We still could do that, and if we did do that, then I'd be wondering whether we would see this is a pretty decent looking channel. And obviously when we went up and tested this trend line last time, we then had a year basically of forming a bull flag before obviously the next leg up. I'm wondering if we might do the same, but of course we haven't reached that resistance yet. We may still in December, and if we do see a decent move up, that's the trend line I would be looking at. In terms of the Bollinger Bands, we're basically on a weekly upper band, right? And we have been for, with breaks for a while. We came back and tested the daily middle band here. Didn't quite make it back to the daily middle band here, but we've been grinding up fairly solidly on that. In terms of if we continue that for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'd be looking for a target maybe 100 handles higher, possibly more than that. But ideally, we'd be going and hitting this trend line here, which I've got in the 6200 area. All right, looking at the nothing really to say on the 45 DMA because we've spent so much of November effectively going sideways. In terms of the daily chart on SPX, we've got a possible weak RSI 14 sell signal brewing. We've got a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing as well. These, if they fix, would be pretty decent looking sell signals. In terms of the upper band, we've got that at 6109. We are well short of it. And we were on a daily upper band ride, and then we came back and tested the daily middle band. We've gone back and retested the high. We've not made it back up to the upper band yet, and we still might. And if we did, as I said, that would get us over 6100, and maybe, just maybe, we could make it to this trend line, which would be my main target. We will see. Looking at the hourly chart, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. That, of course, go a little higher, and that will fail. It's on the 15-minute chart, no current divergence. This is the shorter-term pattern here, but I would note that this upper trend line is not really a target because we didn't actually touch the lower trend line on the last move down. Still wondering if we might do that. And as I said, we've got a pretty nice-looking double top here. All right, let's have a look at the Qs. Qs, obviously, we haven't retested the high yet, so no double top and no divergence on the daily chart. On the hourly chart, no divergence there either. In terms of the pattern setup here, not a bad looking pattern, which would be greatly improved if we actually touched the support trend line here. I've been wondering for the last few days whether we might do that. We've not quite made it. If we could touch that and reverse back up, then we'd have a decent target at the upper trend line. That's not a target yet. On Dia, we've got a tiny bit of negative divergence here, so little that I haven't actually marked it in. This is a very weak negative divergence on the daily RSI 5. And that's one problem with the setup we've got on SPX at the moment. It's the only daily divergence that we've got. And by itself, it's not really enough to get excited about. But I am watching it. It could be that it'll develop into something interesting. In terms of the trend lines here, I've got a couple of trend lines above. Both of them would require going higher. New weekly pivots, monthly pivots on all the charts, of course. On the 15-minute chart, potential double top or part formed head and shoulders here, but it's by no means as decent a setup as we've got on the SPX chart. Let's have a look at IWM. On IWM, don't really have an overall pattern. Nice looking potential double top here. No divergence on the hourly chart. In terms of a trend line here, I have got one here, but I did note on the last Sunday that we'd need to go a bit higher to reach it. We haven't reached it. And on the daily chart, we've got an old RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and we haven't got a daily RSI 5 sell signal brewing yet. But if we actually retest this higher 244.98, we could get one. Looking at DAX, DAX on the daily chart, no current negative divergence. I've been looking for a retest of this high as the obvious next target, and we've almost made it, but not quite. Again, that would need to go a little higher. The high here on the daily chart, that's 19,640, and this is at 19,674. It's not a lot higher, but it'll need to go a bit higher if it's going to retest it. Looking at Nikkei, no current divergence, and we are still below the daily middle band. Not been any sign of it getting off the ground here. DAX is actually starting to cooperate, but really what we're retesting here is not the early November high, we're retesting an October high, because the Trump bounce that we saw on the US indices never happened on most of the other world indices, certainly didn't happen on DAX, and absolutely hasn't happened on Nikkei. So this is weakening the bullish move I was hoping to see in November and December, which really has been largely absent so far. I'm still hoping we might see that in December, but I am wondering whether we might actually finish off the year doing some more retracement and then maybe make higher targets in the first quarter next year. We will see. All right, let's have a look at let's have a look at CL. Okay, CL, this has just been tracking sideways. Amy, you can see this, really, it's been tracking sideways for months now. So I still have an open target at a retest of the low at 63.57. I think the chances of reaching it next year aren't bad, and I don't think what Trump's planning to do with energy certainly detracts from that at all. And I think it makes it more likely that we're going to reach that target. Looking at natural gas, this kind of looks short term. We've broken up, and obviously we had a strong following wind over the last 3 months, and that did take natural gas up quite a bit. So I think that actually amounted to something like $1.20. So if you'd actually knock that off, we'd still be down at 216. But we've got a headwind into April now, with it dropping. I think it's only dropping 30 or 40 cents or something on the rolls, but nonetheless, it is a headwind, and we'll see how that goes. In the short term, we've been seeing some very, very spiky days, and this looks like a bull flag forming. And if that's the case, then this is likely setting up a retest of this high here in the 3.64 area. Let's have a look at that on the bigger picture charts. And looking at CL, no current negative divergence. We've got a triangle here, which has a target in the 63.57 area, and at the moment I'm seeing absolutely nothing to suggest we're not going to make that. Above us, we've got the daily middle band at the moment. We've got the 50 DMA. We've got the 200 DMA. Most of the resistance is above us at the moment, and at the moment I'm not seeing an awful lot unless we see some major news. I'm not really seeing an awful lot that would push this up. If we come back and retest this low, we would then have a potential pretty nice looking large double bottom, which could then deliver and actually could be pretty decent. We could go lower as well, but we've got some decent looking. So this is a decent looking support area. I think the chances of forming a double bottom here would be reasonably good. The question is, what would the prospects be of actually getting a move up here? Because this double bottom would not be a small one. A sustained break up back over the 95 area would actually have a target in the 125 area. I don't know if that's likely to happen in the next couple of years, but I'll be very interested to see the setup if it forms. NG, no current negative divergence. Here, I'm wondering, well, we're holding the daily middle band as support. We're forming what looks like a bull flag. I'm thinking we're probably going to retest the higher, and we may well go higher. Sorry, retest the higher and may well go higher. What I would say, though, is that we've reached an interesting point on the NG index chart, and that is a retest of 3.64. That was the high in 2023. Well, it was the high after we had done the initial decline at the start of the year. And it is potentially a double bottom resistance, but it's also a potential inverted head and shoulder neckline. So I am wondering whether we might form a right shoulder here. I was mentioning this in the bigger picture webinar last week as well, and at the moment it is pulling back, and that high is holding. We could be starting a right shoulder, which had an ideal right shoulder low target in the 1.95 area, and of course Trump is also planning to increase natural gas production. We could do that. We're facing a headwind for the next 3 or 4 months. It's going to be very interesting to see which way this goes. On the bigger picture, pretty much just a bigger picture looking at what we're seeing here. This is the potential double bottom we've got here, and it's not that bad, but it would be improved if it makes an IHS. It would make a better IHS than it makes a double bottom at the moment. But it's not a bad setup. Should we see a sustained break up over 3.64, I would be taking it seriously as a double bottom, and this would actually have a target. It would have a minimum target in the that would be about the 5.35 area, with an extended target in about the 5.75 area. So what I'm really liking is inverted head and shoulders, and at the moment this is a strong resistance level, which is of course currently holding and may continue to hold. If we do see a retest this high here at 3.64, I will be wondering about a double top, which on a sustained breakdown below 3.2 would have a move target in about the 2.65 area. we will see. All right, great. Let's have a look at the GC chart. Now, I've been asked a few times whether I think the retracement in metals is over, and I keep saying it rather depends what's happening on the dollar. So we'll come to the dollar, but in the meantime, what I did say is we didn't really have any bottoming patterns on metals here, and we didn't really have any positive divergence worth the mention either. So we will see how it goes. The initial sell signals have pretty much made target on the dailies, and that's good. We've seen a nice rally from here, and we've seen a pullback, which could just be a like 50 or 60% back. Keeping an open mind, short term, this looks like a bear flag setting up a retest of this low here in the 2630 area. Looking at silver, nice looking double bottom here, actually, not bad. This is a nice reversal pattern. I am wondering about seeing a retest of this low again, and we've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, and I'm also thinking we may well be owed a retest of this low here, which I've got at about the 4.065 area. That could set up a nice looking double bottom on copper, and we'll see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts too. And on GC, no current divergence. And you can see we had negative divergence here, and an RSI 5 sell signal here, but we didn't get any positive divergence at the bottom. And we haven't really had a bottoming pattern either. Could we be forming inverted head and shoulders here? Not really. I'd mainly be looking for the pattern on the gold index chart, and it's not really saying that. We may well see a retest of this high. That could, of course, be the second high of a double top. We would need to see what was happening on the US dollar next. In terms of the weekly chart and monthly charts, we've not got an awful lot to work with here. And if we were setting up a pullback and a retest to set up weekly or monthly signals, we probably haven't pulled back enough for that. Looking at silver, on SI, RSI 5 buy signal fixed, hasn't made target yet. Nice looking double bottom. I have drawn in a potential head and shoulders here because there is a potential one that could be forming here. But I like this as a double bottom. If we see a sustained break up over 32.035, that would have a target up in about the, approximately the 34 area, just 33.9 to 34. So watching that with interest. On the silver index chart, we've got exactly the same in terms of the signals, and we are testing the double daily middle band as a resistance at the moment. So this is a better bottoming setup than the one we've got on gold, although gold's so far gone considerably further. On palladium, not really an awful lot to see here, but we're obviously holding the daily middle band as resistance, and if we break back over that, that will look more promising. On platinum, we've actually got a pretty nice looking double bottom here. So if we see a sustained break up over this double bottom resistance in about the 983 area, we could see a move which could take us back up into the 1033 to 1038 area. That would be a pretty nice move. And would get us pretty close to a retest of this high. So this is, again, isn't a bad bottoming pattern. I'd just be happier if we would also see something like that on gold. Looking at HG, HG, wondering about a retest of this low. Kind of looks like a triangle that's broken down but not actually made target yet. Keeping an open mind, but it would be nice to set up a double bottom and potentially head up from that. I was thinking if we retest the low, then we'd probably get a possible daily RSI 5 buy signal brewing, but we've gone too high for that, so that's not going to happen now. But we can still see that double bottom, and at the moment, that seems the obvious next thing to see. Looking at GDX, not an awful lot to see in terms of direction. Nice retracement here from this initial wedge. Could be finding a low here. Not a lot of clues either way. GDXJ broke down through the trendline support. Didn't really have a decent pattern here. Might still be forming one, of course, but I'm not seeing any obvious candidates at the moment, and no current divergence. All right, let's have a look at the ZB chart. Now, ZB, I've been muttering for the last couple of weeks about the double bottom here that wasn't doing anything, and that I was seeing the signals for, but that wasn't actually delivering anything. And finally, after a very long wait, it appears to be breaking up. and delivering. So we've got a target up here in about the 121.26 area. This is rolled into March, by the way, on bonds this weekend. We've got a nice looking target up here in about the 121.26 area. And I've got more to say about this on the TNX chart, which was the main one I was watching. On DX, we've seen a very interesting move, and I've got more to say about this on the daily chart. But we've almost made it to this trend line, but actually on the index, we did make it to the trend line. And that means we've got a nice looking pattern. So I will come to that in a moment when we look at the daily charts. All right, let's have a look at those. And on DX, no current divergence, almost made it to the trend line. But if you look at the USD, we actually made it to the trend line. And we've got a pretty decent looking rising megaphone here. Could we see a retest of this high next? Yes. Would we need to see? Do we have an obvious point of failure here? Well, we won't have any decent negative divergence here on the daily chart. On the weekly chart, we could set a nice looking weekly RSI 5 sell signal brewing, and really this rally hasn't been going on long enough to move the needle a great deal on the monthly chart. In terms of the pattern here, this is nice, it's promising. But equally, of course, we could head directly up into the 109.5 area to this trend line and where this megaphone resistance would be now. We've got, because Trump is going to be the next president, we've got a huge wild card in a lot of areas over next year. And one thing I'm wondering about the dollar is it possible that we see the dollar come back and retest this high here at 114.75. That could set up a really nice looking second high of a double top. And to be honest, we've gone sufficiently low that I was thinking that probably wasn't going to happen. But now, well, I'm starting to think it might happen. If we can get back over and convert 110, I think I would be thinking it probably will happen. So that's what I'm wondering here, and of course that raises a big question mark over precious metals. If we're going to see dollar head back to 114.75, then chances are they would go lower. All right, bonds. We've also got potentially a very interesting year coming. On the hourly chart, I had an RSI. I had a sell signal here on the RSI 5. That's made target. But the main thing I was watching here was the double top here. And we've now broken down from that. We've got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing here, but the obvious thing to do is actually to make it back into this target here, which is in the 40.5 down to about the 40.2 area. This is the double bottom that I was looking at on ZB, and this is basically the mirror image on TNX. I'm liking it. After that, I'm thinking we're in a flag here. And it's a pretty nice looking flag, and it's already seen a slight break up. I'm thinking that in the next 2 or 3 months, we're probably going to see a break up over this flag resistance, and then we've got a pretty good chance of going back and retesting this high here in the 49.97 area. Again, as with the dollar, we'd come down low enough that I was thinking that probably wasn't going to happen. But now I'm thinking the obvious setup is that it will. I think this is more likely than what we're seeing on the dollar, but the dollar, it's an option. Here, I think it's the obvious option. So I'm expecting to see this probably in the first quarter next year or latest in the second. We will see. We could have a very, very, very interesting year on bonds next year. I wrote a post about it recently. I'll be talking more about it in webinars later this month. All right. Let's have a look at, just a quick look on the monthly chart. What we'd be doing here is potentially setting up the second high. This would be the flag, second high of a double top here, potentially to go lower, but potentially also to just break up from that. We could break up from that. And certainly, if we're talking about the potential for extensive tariffs to be put on, we could see a move up in inflation. That could be followed by a move up in interest rates. At that stage, I'd be wondering about a breakup. And I'd be wondering whether this IHS I drew in and said that I thought it's most unlikely was to make target. I'm wondering whether it might actually make target. Now, that would be 10-year yields at 8%, but we've already seen them as high as 5%, and they went up from went up from 4 here to 50. That was one hell of a move. It's a much shorter move to get to 8. I'm skeptical about whether it can reach that, but certainly if we see inflation start to move up again, at that stage, it'll look credible. And we could see it. So, as I said, could be a very, very interesting year on bonds next year. All right, let's have a look at the KC chart. Now, KC, we've been seeing a bit of a pullback here. No negative divergence on the hourly chart. Bit of a pullback back to the new week pivot area. We will see. We've got monthly pivots pulled down at 298 area. Unless we're going to see a really serious retracement, I'd be surprised if we didn't hold 300. So we will see. All right, looking at SB, we're still in what is now a 2.5 month bullish consolidation, which has been a real bore. Not the greatest trend lines, but this really, really looks like a bullish consolidation. Sooner or later, this is likely to result in a retest of this high here. And we will see how that goes. On CC, we've seen a very nice move up, and we've pretty much reached the target that I was talking about at a retest of the high that I'll be looking at on the daily chart. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. That was a while ago, and it's mainly gone up since. But I am wondering, we're overdue for a retracement, and this wouldn't be a bad area to see one. I'm thinking we might. CT. Nice rally up here. Slight break of this rising support. We've got a decent looking double top here. I am wondering about some retracement here. We will see. Looking at ZW. ZW broke up at slightly over resistance here, and I'm wondering whether we're forming a double bottom. There's an opportunity for grains to turn back up here, and we've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. We've also got on corn, we've got what looks like a bull flag and a test. This trend line keeps moving, which is really annoying me. I'm having to adjust it almost every day. But this target trend line would therefore be in about the 438.5 area at the moment, and that could be bull flag resistance, and that could be setting up a retest this high here in about the 448 area. Looking at soy, I was looking for a retest of this low here, and we've got a potential double bottom here. I'm thinking we might still go a little lower, but we may well be forming a double bottom to take this higher. But I've got more to say about all of these on the daily charts. We'll get to those in a minute. Lumber still looks like a bull flag forming, if not the greatest quality one. Live cattle still looks as though it's heading back up into a retest of this high, and it hasn't quite made it yet. 60-minute sell signal fixed, and live cattle, no current negative divergence, retested this high and has gone considerably higher. Nothing compelling saying this is about to turn around yet. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. On KC, we're looking very overbought, and we just saw our first red day in a while. But this might just be consolidation before it goes higher. We are at the stage where we might start forming some daily negative divergences, which could get interesting. We will see. I would note that the last time we were this overbought, we didn't get any negative divergence before the move down, which is something worth noting. This very strong bull move here. This has been another very strong bull move with a less strong bull move in between. So this has been a very nice overall move up on coffee, and it's probably not finished yet. Sugar. Looks like a bull flag forming, as I was saying. CC, we're getting some negative divergence here. It's not strong, but it's not bad. I was looking for a retest of this high here at 89.84, and we've made it with change. However, I would note that there are sizable rolls on cocoa here, and actually the target, the level it reached earlier this year was higher than 89.84, and quite significantly higher. So it wouldn't surprise me to see this back over 10,000. On wheat, possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing, nice looking double bottom, very nice actually, but it might need to go down, do the full retest at 542. On corn, nice looking little bull flag here. I'd be surprised to see it break this rising support in the 42 area, and disappointed. But I would say that it's still got something to prove here, because this could all be a bear flag forming. So we will see. On soy, nice looking double bottom setting up here. I have been looking for a full retest of this low here at 973.40, and we haven't quite seen that yet. We might need to. But I've got to say though, not a bit. This double bottom here maybe is a bit oversized. Overall, this double bottom though isn't oversized. much larger pattern. And if we could find a decent low here, we could see a very decent move up. On cotton, we're seeing a bit of a rally here. I am wondering whether we're going to see a reversal here and come back for a full retest of this low at 67.90, but arguably we might have done enough, in which case I've got double bottom resistance in the 76.19 area. We will see. And that is everything. So I'll have everything posted as soon as possible, and I'll catch you guys again on Wednesday. But it's one thing I just wanted to mention in terms of the what I was mentioning at the beginning. If we don't see a bullish December, then there is potential for quite a lot of downside. It's mainly on the SPX here, and it's more of a hint of a decent retracement than anything else. But I am wondering about it. And there hasn't been much enthusiasm on the indices worldwide generally, as we've been coming into Christmas this year. We may not get any. In which case, I will be wondering about that potential double top on the SPX chart. We will see. All right, great. Take care. See you Wednesday.